Hi Year 12, welcome to your video tutorial. This video tutorial is intended for Stage 6 software engineering students studying the first unit of work for Year 12 Secure Software Architecture. Credits for the content and the knowledge in these video and accompanying slides goes to James King and his online resource on eForge, as well as the Year 11 software engineering course credits listed here. The syllabus dot point we are going to cover today is the introductory one. It's pretty straightforward. By the end of it, you should feel confident in describing the benefits of developing secure software. This dot point's going to go over a number of video tutorials though, so today's just the introduction. So, secure software. Most people think about security with software when it becomes an issue, when a particular software system has a vulnerability or at a point of crisis whereby which a piece of software has been used for malicious purposes and the data or data contained within it is somehow now at risk. However, secure software and thinking about security with the software really has to start at the very start of the cycle before anything is developed, before the design process is initiated and before any software actually goes to market. The following are several key principles. They're not exactly, here's a concrete way to make secure software architecture, but there's some key principles on the way in which software should be designed, which should be thought about in terms of an architecture from the very first moment before the software actually becomes launched or in fruition. Those principles are modularity. To keep something safe and secure, the software should really be broken down into small, manageable pieces. This way they can be thoroughly developed, tested, and remain somewhat independent from the rest of the software. The next concepts are things that we definitely covered in object-oriented programming, and the next principle, is about abstraction. Now, we talked about abstraction in OOP, and it's pretty much the concept of hiding complex details and only exposing parts of the system. So we learnt about this when we were doing classes and objects and instantiating classes, but you're trying to keep the most complex part of the system somewhat hidden. So the code and the code that actually executes is just calling this stuff that's happening in the background. The next concept, which also came up in OOP, is encapsulation. And this is to do with keeping all the related data and functions together within the one class and ensure that the workings of that particular class are hidden from other parts of the system. So you'll remember the init class was encapsulated, and that meant that anything in there, when it's called in other parts, it can't actually be changed. The other two key concepts are general to do with software. You should be designing software that's pretty reusable, so that you can reuse components in different parts of the project or even across project, and pretty easily maintainable. Writing clean, well-documented code that others can understand will ensure that your software is designed in the cleanest way, and therefore often a byproduct of that is software that's usually really pretty safe and secure. Security, like I said, and the quotes at the top, it's not an afterthought. If you're thinking about security once you've had the vulnerability or, once the attack has occurred, it's too late. It really should be embedded from the design process from the very beginning. And those design features that you need to think about in order to create secure software: authentication and authorization, ensuring that you have lots of data authentication, and that your users can only access certain parts of the application. Input validation, which we'll cover a bit in practical activities over the next coming lessons. Ensuring that user inputs into your system are always verified. And in the coming lessons, we're going to learn about SQL injection and cross-site scripting and ways in which you can validate user input to prevent those. Two other ways is to ensure your data is encrypted. Anything that's saved and stored, passwords, personal data, is encrypted not only when it's saved, but during transmission, and we'll talk about a couple of ways in which that can occur. And then the final one is error handling. So ensuring that error messages are given when invalid data is input, but also ensuring that they don't give too much away. So for example, you shouldn't say, your password was wrong. but rather a generic invalid username and password or invalid credentials, prompting the user to do it again. So that's it. That's an overview of some of the key concepts and key design principles, as well as the features that minimize vulnerabilities, prevent cyber attacks, and also protect data.